Hello there, this is the Abridged campaign commentary for Star Wars Empire at War, an RTS game from the past. So in this series I'll be giving some gameplay commentary on the most important plays of the campaign in this game, and probably snarking at the plot as I often do. This game takes place before Rogue One but after Episode 3, so towards the beginning of the Rebel Alliance's rebellion, and the game begins with us going out on a mission to get X-Wings, their iconic fighter, which are currently just being developed by some company. The Empire are going to nationalise the company and steal the designs because they do very much respect intellectual property law, but we're going to stop them. As a quick note before we get started, because this game uses the Star Wars film soundtracks as its background music, YouTube won't allow that, so I've turned the music off and I'll be throwing some generic replacer music just to add to the atmosphere. Anyway, so for the first mission, we discover that the Empire have a Star Destroyer guarding the locations where the prototype X-Wings are stored, so we're now going to try and create a distraction by taking a few ships to attack the Kuat space yard where the Star Destroyers are manufactured, where we hope to just cause such a ruckus that the enemy will move that Star Destroyer guarding the X-Wings back to the shipyard, and then we'll quickly teleport in and go for the X-Wings. This then is our first space battle. The game is divided up into three modes: space battles, land battles, and a strategic view where you decide what battles you'll fight. You can see the space battles are quite simple. It's all on a 2D plane, so nothing too difficult to work with here. We've got a load of these Corellian corvettes, and luckily for us, the Empire have rigged all of their shipyards to blow by the looks of things. I think they're supposed to be fuel tanks or something, so not only is none of their fleet here to stop us from doing this, but the fuel tanks just blow up and destroy all of the structures. So we're actually going to be turning this distractionary raid into the virtual destruction of the entire facility, just because we can keep blowing them up. They do have some TIE fighters to attack us with, but these corvettes are the hard counter to fighters in the game, so they easily shoot them down and just absorb all damage coming in onto their shields, so we're not going to be in any way threatened by this attack. I'm also debuffing them with our leader Rey Antilles' personal special ability. Blowing up another part of the shipyard, we see an Imperial Star Destroyer being destroyed by the chain reaction. That's good to see. It was just under construction, I think, but that's probably going to screw the Empire over in some way. They tried to attack us with a corvette of their own, but it just got taken down by our numbers. Then we blow up another shipyard arm and another Imperial Star Destroyer goes down. I think the Empire is starting to get a little bit worried now, and they do indeed decide to bring an operational Star Destroyer over to take a look, and handily enough, it's the one we wanted to distract. So we shoot it, we actually do significant damage to it, even though that should be impossible in the game's normal rules. I guess that's just some scripted damage that happens, and we escape. So there we go, nothing lost, and we've done loads of damage to the Empire right off the bat, so this rebellion is getting off to a good start. It seemed surprisingly easy to just blow up all their stuff, but maybe because we're early in the rebellion, they weren't really expecting anyone to show up and just start shooting up all of their shipyards. So here is the strategic gameplay layer. We can see all the important planets in the galaxy, and you just move your fleets and ground units between them. I need to actually recruit an army to use for the next story mission. Since we are going to make a ground assault on a planet, I have to start making the rebellion into a proper army, recruiting some guys to fight for us and making some basic tanks as well. There's also a system where you build things on the planet to unlock new construction options and get money, but I probably won't be covering that very much in this commentary. Now, before we actually go after the X-Wing plans, we need to attack the planet of Wayland, because here there is a base where we can steal Imperial codes of some kind that will allow us to approach Frisia, the planet where the X-Wings are being stored, without being attacked, presumably, because it is currently under blockade by Imperial forces. So to start things off, we land some of the units I've recruited here in this forest, right next to the location where the codes are supposedly held, and we've got R2-D2 and C-3PO with us, joining us for the mission so they can hack into this location and get the codes that we need. There is going to be a bit of resistance on the way, so we'll have to fight a few Imperials. I won't do much commentary on this fight because it is sort of a tutorial. You're just getting used to land battles here and discovering things like how absolutely pointless our tanks are. They just can't contend with these single ATST walkers, and we end up taking quite a few losses as we make our way up. You can find little build pads like this one on the battlefield and use them to make turrets or things that heal your infantry or vehicles. There's also an enemy anti-infantry turret there that's killing my men, but I'm barely paying any attention to it, just overwhelming it with numbers, and there we go. Now we've captured the enemy base. We just have to sit in it for a couple of minutes while R2 and C-3PO do the hacking. The enemy do counterattack with some more ATST walkers and general infantry, but by building turrets myself and using my infantry rather than my useless tanks to do the fighting, we can easily keep the enemy out of their base. We can also use this ability on the infantry. There's a try not to die button which reduces their move speed but makes them try and take cover. So that's handy to have. Since we're defending a static position, we can just take less damage. So here we're defending against another counterattack, and you can see my tanks having a very difficult time. They're not very good against infantry or vehicles, so not quite sure what they're useful for. I think they're more like scout tanks. Their advantage is their speed, so having them here just defending a point isn't very good. So maybe that's why they're not really performing for me in this battle, and I brought way too many of them, so they're using up all of my population space. Anyway, after the time limit is over, the rebel transports come back and take us away. So now we've got these codes. The Empire aren't very good at this sort of thing, so they're not going to change the codes, even though presumably they noticed us there attacking their base and stealing them, but whatever. So now we can attack Frisia, the planet to the west, which will now be unlocked by that mission, without having to do a space battle, so we don't have to capture the space over the planet before attacking the land, which usually you do in this game. There are some X-Wing prototypes sitting in a defended compound, defended by the Imperials. They've even got these turbo laser towers, which will just annihilate our forces if we go near them, but it tells us we can go around the corner and blow up the local power generator to actually switch them off. So we need to go up the west edge of this map to find the power generator first. On the way we encountered some Imperial stormtroopers, and you can see my squadron of tanks really having some trouble taking them down. We don't take much damage in return because we're shielded, but we're just surprisingly weak with our big Gatling gun turret things on the top. I thought they would be good at shooting infantry, but apparently not. At the back, behind my force, I'm moving up a squad of pilots. The actual plan here is to have pilots just get in the X-Wings, hope the Empire have kept them all fueled up and ready to go, and then fly away. Seems a little bit risky, since it could be foiled by the Empire just locking the doors, but we're going to risk everything for this anyway. So we need to force our way forwards without the pilots dying, is all that really comes of that. Here I had to nope away from some ATSTs to wait for my infantry to lead the attack on them, otherwise my tanks would just get blown up. And now things are getting a little bit easier. We can use our rocket launcher soldiers to bring down the ATSTs, but then those things appear. I think they're called TIE Maulers. They're like TIE fighters, but they have wheels. And they just drove through my infantry and killed almost all of them. They ran them over. So we're actually now down to pretty much nothing all of a sudden. That was quick. Luckily there was a reinforcement point up ahead. You can only pull in new units from outer space while you're near one of these shining points. So we do just that. It can get up to full strength once again. Luckily the enemy turbo lasers can't fire up, so our transports are able to just pop down and put more men on the battlefield. As I moved into the base containing the power generator, I almost got C-3PO killed by an anti-infantry turret. The problem I have here is there's loads of ATST, so I need my rocket launcher guys to bring them down, but the anti-infantry turret will bring my rocket launcher guys down, so I can instead try deploying the tanks, since they'll be strong against the anti-infantry turret, but then they'll be quite weak against the ATST, so it's an annoying situation. We don't have the unit variety yet to actually properly deal with it. After a short fight where we weren't doing that much damage to the turrets and we were taking a decent amount of damage on our tanks, I decided to go with our secret additional option, that is to use bombers. Since we have bombers orbiting the planet, we can call in a bombing run now and again where it just blows up an area of the map. The enemy can't stop us doing this. They can build anti-aircraft turrets which kind of stop it, but not really. So there we go. We destroyed the enemy's turrets, we probably killed a few enemy troops, and the remaining ones were easy enough to kill with what we had. So we could push in in and take out that power generator and other turrets nearby, as you can see, and that means the turbo laser towers near the X-Wings will not be operational, so now we can make that push towards them and try and get the pilots into them. I detached my infantry to quickly capture the reinforcement point nearby, but this proved to be pretty difficult because the Empire kept reinforcing on it while we were fighting, and those TIE maulers again just annihilated half of my infantry. I brought in my tanks and then eventually everything to support when I realised this fight was going to be messy. Even after the points neutralised, they're still dropping things on me, so maybe this is just scripted rather than actual reinforcements from their space fleet. Not quite sure. I did say on the strategic map that they didn't actually have a space fleet, so I guess it's scripted. Anyway, we eventually won, but with huge losses. The issue we have there is that when your units are partially damaged, you can't get the men back until the unit's completely dead, so it's annoying. Later, we've got our full force ready to go, but there it is. One TIE mauler just appears from somewhere and kills half my infantry again. So annoying. So yes, that loss only counted as the loss of one population space, so I can bring in like 6 extra guys even though I lost 20 because we weren't losing full squads. It's a slightly awkward system that means we're underpowered if the enemy don't kill us enough, strangely. Now we do make it to the X-Wings, our pilots get in, but there is an issue. The Empire are going to cheekily build a load of anti-aircraft turrets around us at the last second, so we have to quickly destroy them. Not really going to be much of an issue. They've also got more anti-aircraft turrets in the middle of the map that we need to take out, and I thought, let's be really cheeky. Let's try and bomb them using our Y-Wings. I wanted to see if they would actually fire at the Y-Wings, and it looks like they do, but not enough to stop the bombing run, even with 4 of the turrets there. So, there we have it. The X-Wings are clear to go. We had one additional pilot who's just been left standing awkwardly. He's probably going to get captured because the rest of us are out of here. So we've got the X-Wings, and now I guess we're going to reverse engineer them. There are losses, not as high as it looked like, again, because if you don't lose a full squad, you actually get the other squad members back when you return to the strategy map. It doesn't count as losing the unit. So things weren't quite as bad as they looked. It's just annoying during the fight since you don't have those men available. We discover that some of the scientists who helped leak the information on the X-Wings to us have been captured by the Empire, and they're now being taken to the good old spice mines of Kessel. So we're going to show some solidarity with them and try to rescue them by sending our fleet to intercept the transfer and steal the prison shuttle so we can get these scientists back. I added some stuff to my fleet, and then away we went. Mon Mothma here is informing us that we happen to need Y-Wings in particular for this mission. I had some more available, but I learned quickly that only the first group that goes in for a fight can take part. You can't reinforce it with additional fleets from other directions or anything like that, so it's a little bit simpler than I expected or remembered it, because I have played this game before in the distant past. Didn't realise this was happening though. I've got my land army in with the fleet, and I thought it just wouldn't be here on the map, but actually it is here as a load of transports, so that's pretty inconvenient. Now we need to babysit those guys at the back of the map while we try and fight. For this mission, it's just a big stream of enemy units coming towards us, and every now and again there's a couple of prison shuttles that we need to disable using ion cannons. First we had to take on an acclimator frigate. We don't really have anything frigate class, well, we don't have anything frigate class specifically, but we have so many bombers and so many anti-fighter lasers available on our corvettes that just spamming everything on it allows us to take it down with the lighter ship classes, so it went okay in the end. Then along come some of those shuttles. The Y-Wings have the special ability to fire ion cannons now and again, and we can use that to disable the shuttles. You can also use it on regular enemies to disable them, although I don't know how effective that really is. Once they're disabled, we have to send our main corvette with Antilles on it to go and pick them up. But one of the shuttles got away. You can see it there sneaking back towards the enemy's start point, so I had to send some Y-Wings to chase them down. There are some more shuttles coming in, so I'll need to separate a group off to get those guys as well. The issue we have now is that the enemy are starting to get in amongst our transport ships, and after we've got that group of shuttles, it was Star Destroyers coming up behind them, and their long-range cannons can hit our transports and we can't really escape because we're up against the edge of the map. So this is no good whatsoever. I need to quickly get that shuttle that snuck off away on its own and end the mission before these Star Destroyers just blow everything up. I do have a few Y-Wings here who are able to damage those Star Destroyers because we can bomb their shield generators, and then our corvettes can use their rapid-fire lasers to gradually damage the hard points on these ships. These aren't the full Star Destroyers either. I think they're the Victory class version, which is like the small one, so not as powerful as you might expect, and we are able to escape, I think, without losing any transports. Although that said, when we get to the losses screen, it actually tells us that we lost Mon Mothma in the fight somewhere. Not quite sure how we achieved that, especially because we didn't lose any ships, so if she was on a ship, well, I suppose it didn't mention it. Maybe she was in her own transport ship, and it happened to be the only one that went down, and it just doesn't mention the loss of the transport since they're sort of a free-spawned unit. But she's still talking to us after the fight. Because she's a story character, she will respawn, so you can't really lose her. Next, we get introduced to the way in which the rebels advance through the tech tree. We can unlock new units and buildings by stealing information from the Imperials. Curiously, the information we steal is about rebellion-only ships that the Empire doesn't use. Don't really know how this works, but anyway, that's how you do it, whereas the Empire themselves just advance by researching things. There's a note here telling us that we need to conquer everything before we do the next story mission, everything that's available to us now. What I'm going to be doing is starting that, but not finishing it, and I only really bring that up because that bit of information and my inability or refusal to follow the advice ends up defining much of what's going to be happening over the next couple of parts of this series, as you will see. Things do get off to a good start though. We take Kuat, I auto-resolved that battle. We took a load of losses, but we'll just rebuild them. That probably saved us some time. I also sent my fleet back to take Frisia, and we can do that for free because there's nothing there after the previous story mission. At the same time, we learn that the rebel higher-ups are trying to find information on a super weapon, probably the Death Star right now. They don't get it, but they do find out that Han Solo is on Kashyyyk shooting the place up, saving Wookiees, and we decide that we might as well go and help him. So that's the next story mission. There are loads of planets unlocked now, so I'm meant to go around and attack all of these planets first, but as I alluded to, we're not actually going to achieve that. We'll see how things play out. First, I am going to be doing that. We take Wayland for free, then I go to attack the pirate-held planet of Korriban. In space, though, there is a bit of resistance. It was just a couple of fighters and a frigate. We don't have anything on the same tier, but as I said earlier, we can spam so much stuff into a frigate that just a load of corvettes and bombers will easily take it down. Now, I triggered the land battle, but I realised I have more land units around that I wanted to bring in first. This is when I discovered that once you've initiated a battle, you can't say actually no. There's no way to cancel the engagement, and you also can't see what the enemy have. You just see one unit, so I thought, well, if they only have one speeder bike or something, we'll just come down and kill them with our army. That shouldn't be a problem, but very quickly it was obvious that they also had other things that simply aren't shown to you on the strategic layer. So my army's moving up and now engaging with some infantry and something that looks like the sand boat things from Return of the Jedi. I'm just spamming all of my tanks in there. I thought by just raining damage on them from all of their weapons at once we would be able to work through those infantry with some focus fire, but not really. They also have an anti-tank walker on the left that's taking us out pretty quickly. That's not very nice, and they have rocket launcher guys as well, and these tanks are too squishy to last in this fight. It's up to my infantry to win this. Already we've fought way more stuff than I expected to, so after we won the battle, I was very surprised to learn there was another group of similar strength just behind it, and their walker absolutely annihilates all of my infantry. So that was nice. Again, they've been run over, the infantry are just gone. We can't really fight against this AI micro right now because all the things that run you over are much faster than infantry, so there's no escape. We were lucky enough to make it to the nearby capture point without fighting anything else, and now I can reinforce, but I was a bit nonplussed at how difficult this battle was, since on the strategy layer it seemed like I would be fighting one guy or something like that, since when it only had one disc of strength on the space fleet, it was just one guy that you had to fight. As you can see, I wasted some time killing some local civilians because they were hostile to us. It just stops them respawning infinitely if you blow up their houses. Then I started moving to the east towards the other capture point and actually found no resistance other than a couple of turrets. So now I was a little bit confused about what was going on. Had I already defeated the enemy? I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do. So all I could do is go towards the unexplored bit at the bottom left of the map. On the way we find the same enemies we've been fighting already. It seems they're just respawning. That little fight there distracted me from the fact that an anti-tank walker had found my scout tanks and blown them all up, so that wasn't appreciated. It will be up to the infantry then to investigate this corner of the map. An enemy walker appears from the fog of war and almost kills most of my infantry, but it mercifully stopped in front of our lines, and now our rocket launcher guys can destroy those vehicles. I spotted out of the corner of my eye that there's actually an anti-infantry turret just out of our line of sight, so I moved the infantry back to heal and then snuck up with a tank to try and snipe the turret, get line of sight without being able to be hit by anything. Unfortunately, the enemy's range was great enough that their anti-tank walker could see me, and they've got one of those skimmer things sneaking around hitting me as well, so I'm going to get out of there before we lose our shields. And now just spam infantry. If I was really thinking, I could just use bombers to destroy the turret, but I'm not thinking, which will be a characteristic aspect to this series, which will make my life much harder. So we just try and grind forwards. We have so many rocket launchers now that we can destroy the vehicles before they run us over. That means attacking with just infantry seems to be a lot more viable. I was surprised to see that pretty much the same amount of stuff we fought already again is sitting back here in this base, and it's becoming more and more evident that the enemy are just spawning units. It's not just an army we're fighting, it's actually a flow of units, and I should have come here at the very beginning. There was a building which presumably was responsible for this spawning. We destroy it. There are a few nearby infantry units to take out as well, but I could use one of the enemy base's build pads to make a back-to-tank. That means my men are constantly being healed, so this last part of the fight wasn't so bad. And there we go, we win the engagement in the end. Could have just bombed the enemy base right at the start if I had really known what I was doing. We only lost one unit of tanks, so that was nice. The captured planet will add to our income and allow us to build more units in the future. And now we can decide on our next target. If I was paying attention, I could have noticed that Kessel is currently neutral, I believe. I think if I moved to Kessel right now, I would take it for free, as I did with Wayland and Frisia as a result of there being a story mission there before. But I just presumed that if I had to attack it, it would be another grueling land battle like I just fought, so I thought, let's just sit around and build up an army before we do any more captures, and my sitting around and building up an army will allow the Empire to do the same, and everything's going to spiral out of control, and the fight to actually secure the planets around Kashyyyk is going to turn out to be very frustrating and very dramatic at the same time. So any veteran players will probably be too annoyed to watch me incompetently dealing with these situations, but then again, it might be more interesting than seeing me just steamroll the game as an amateur slowly turns into a grizzled pro as I learn that things aren't always as they seem. Just because you can't see enemy fleets doesn't mean they're not all over the place, and just because you have fighters when you went into the battle doesn't mean you'll have them about 5 seconds after the battle starts, and other important lessons, which we'll be getting to in the coming parts of this series, so I hope you'll join me for those.